Off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's good to see you guys in here. Hi, hi, hi.
What's up, guys? How is everybody doing? Ray is number one in the house. KK number two.
Indeed, I'm glad we are all here. Yes. Hi, Jason. Good to see you. Yes, Jason of Oz. I like it.
And we're off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Do you know where he is or who he is? Paulo, good to see you. Howdy. Zeno, Jen in the house, dreaming in Puerto Rico. Ah, yes. Miss Puerto Rico. Haven't been there in quite a while. Beautiful island.
Yeah, I bet you it's very, very nice. Very nice water and everything.
Yeah, I promise, Cindy, that when the apocalypse is over, we're getting to the Caribbean some way or another.
Somehow, even if we have to ride our own dragon.
There's our Israel in the house and our Sin Havoc as well. Keith Henry, good to see you. I hope you got to get out on the motorcycle and all the snow is long gone away. Mary Moore, it was good speaking with you earlier today. Tartarian Vagabond, much love. Quintress 82, hey there over in DC. Elantra up in the Appalachians, great to see you as always. Amazalyn, love from Phoenix. Come to Australia. Yes, we have friends, very good friends.
We'll be there too.
Yeah, I mean, Australia is huge too. I'm not sure what side you're on. But yeah, it's big. We would love to get to Australia at some point in time.
Oh gosh, we would so love to. You know, we got our wonderful Rosemary there, and we work on so many people from there. We just adore them all.
Elizabeth Towers, always wonderful to see you. Yes, I said hi to
good.
Elantra. Gretchen Williams, I'm leaning towards when in horror or in doubt, run in circles, scream, and shout. I love it. That's a great one.
That is so fun.
Thank you, Mary. We always love to help where we can. Ah, yes, wild times. I do want to, first let's take a look. Send prayers out. I'm not sure if the tornado is still going. But man, this was a big one in Michigan. Union City, Michigan. Looks to be about halfway point between Chicago and Detroit. A huge tornado. This one, they are reporting fatalities, unfortunately. Man, the weather, it doesn't end. And, before we know it, we're going to be looking at spring storms. I think spring, is spring usually the most dangerous storms? I seem to remember, at least here in the South, spring is when we could get some really nasty storms. And you could get a perspective on the size of this tornado. And this person's thinking it was an EF3 perhaps. Oh, Union City, Michigan, you have our prayers and positive intentions.
I know. Yeah. I mean, it's very, very concerning. So we're holding everyone in prayer right now.
Absolutely. Sun Jellison by, good to see you. South Carolina. What part of South Carolina? I know the Carolinas well. Andy sings. Now you're down in Australia too, Andy, I do believe. We love you too. Yeah. Spring should begin the new year. You're right, Sin Havoc. And they've just changed it. We don't really know what year it is. Mm-hmm. And then when you say that, relative to what? How about relative to the birth of humanity as a whole? When did they make Homo sapiens sapiens out of what was already here? That's a good question. Why don't we date from that point in time?
I think that would be a fair start.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the weather, it still can be frightful. This, Mind Unveiled, is it delightful? Well, it's covering some heavy-duty stuff. These guys are great. Yeah, if you get to watch this one, we watched this in parts. It's 3 hours and 33 minutes and 33 seconds long. And it really shows, pretty honestly, that everybody knew about the island, whose island, way before even he was first in trouble. There's movies that go back to the 70s that talk about, human cloning, cloning humans for spare parts for elites, for famous and rich of the world, the politicians, the people that are out there like the Gil Bateses and the George S's, and you get the idea. Having clones made for them to order. These are movies, but these things are really based in facts, in my opinion.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, I feel this has been going on for a very long time, and the odds that it's true, well, looking at the world that we live in, are high. And then, our tax dollars go toward this, and it's just so wrong on every level. It's unfathomable what's going on, but we have to look at it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. This was just wild. I mean, these series that he has done in the past several weeks, fantastic. The Frankenstein one is a great one. This one's also pretty long, 5 hours, 45 minutes. But honestly, they're good enough that you keep coming back to them. Oh man, our reality is so much crazier than most people would think. It really, really is. And it's coming out. And it's almost like, I think it's too much for the masses to grasp a hold on. I think they're just going to be in this denial the whole time. Because it is just too much to handle for most people, I think. Not the awakened souls that are with us right now.
No, and I think we'll all individually find our own way to push back. I mean, you can be very mindful about how you spend your money and make sure that you're not supporting any of these beings. I think our money is what keeps them going. So how do we direct that in a way that is going to be useful for us? And I think, buy local, in every chance you get, know who you're buying from, know the ingredients, and that's one way you can do your part, and it's important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Dreaming in Puerto Rico, her son was deployed to the Middle East, so we are praying for a safe return. And, the awakening of people so that we could stop these crazy nonstop wars. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Mind Unveiled, please do go check it out. It's a big channel. They have 374,000 subscribers, 178 videos, but a lot of hours, because some of these videos are literally 9 hours long. They're great. The amount of energy and research put into them is fantastic. So do check out Mind Unveiled if you haven't. Good stuff. Well researched and intuitive. Strong and shallow 6.3 earthquake hits the Solomon Islands. This is an area it's pretty active. We will watch for larger ones to come. There was also, I did believe we talked about it yesterday, a 4.4, which was pretty unusual. It's not showing right now, but I'll change it to, let's change it to 7 days. Here you go. For Louisiana, this is kind of unusual. Now, this area has been getting 1 or 2 earthquakes a month for quite a while because, we watched this really close. We used to live just not too far up from there. And, the depth is pretty shallow overall. They are pretty shallow. It really does feel like, to me, there's something going on concerning the military over here. We've seen that at other times in other locations too. But I think there's going to be some big quakes. We are so, here you have one up close to Cleveland too, a 2.3 up in Ohio. A little bit unusual, but you see them from time to time. 246 quakes is relatively average for 24 hours. The biggest one is the 6.3, and then you have a 5.7, which is up in Alaska, basically, the Aleutians. And then we have others, 5s here. Nothing too exceedingly large or unusual, but we're overdue. It really feels like we're overdue for some big ones. Acid rain from Ambe, that's a volcano, reaches 4 islands as Vanuatu readies emergency response. So, yeah, there's so much going on. And when Cindy had the vision of World War III starting, the guides drew her attention to volcanic activity as being something that would be of note when WW3 was hitting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Paul. That was super sweet. Says every time I hear both your voices and videos, I get relaxed. You're very much appreciated. Much love and light to you both and to the energy family. Thank you. That's nice to hear. I'm glad that we can bring you some peace. I know people have told me in the past they like to listen to our videos, specifically Mike's voice, because it puts people to sleep. I mean, he's a healer. He helps the body feel like it's safe with his energy and his placement. So yeah, I'm trying to get him to actually make some sleep videos to help people sleep, like meditations. We'll get there. I'll get him there. He has a great voice.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, now I do want to do some things combining the voice with music, 432 hertz. I've done on Heart's Home about maybe a dozen videos with 432 hertz music. That's just me and guitar and a few pedals. But I want to do more, and I want to go into maybe doing some with mantras in a way that is relaxing but yet elevating. It is something that I have in mind. So, this is something of note, what we're seeing now with the volcanic activity. It is busy out there. It is very busy. There's so much going on. Then we have the craziness of the war, which is just kind of all over the place. And it's not being contained. It is definitely expanding. And it just seems like, it's kind of a game of chicken that's going on. 2 kamikaze drones reportedly struck a U.S. company at the Burgesia oil complex in Basra, Iraq. A third hit the Rumaila oil field where BP operates. Iran's proxies are now going after the oil infrastructure. Yeah, and also, I mean, you have out there talk of several of the United States' Arab allies in the region perhaps not going to continue their investments with the U.S., which would be a huge blow. This is really about openly who's going to lead the dance, the United States or China, which is going to be the global policeman of the, shadow group, the cabal. It's again, there's so much going on, and I do realize that there are those that believe there are pure white hats. I don't think there's any such thing as a white hat in our government in the last, yuga, literally. There could be individuals that are really trying to fight the system, but the system grabs and corrupts everything. And thank you very much, Paulo, as well. We couldn't do it without you guys' support. So you have that going on. This right here is the IRGC confirmed missile strikes on American oil tankers in the North Persian Gulf. Reports of a massive explosion near Kuwait. Iran officially declares the Straits of Hormuz a no-go zone. For U.S., Israeli, and European ships, they will be targeted. This is what we're talking about, the escalation that's ongoing. And in here, this is Iran successfully attacking Tel Aviv port. This is, again, there is a blackout that's very real. We're going to touch on that. In Israel, they're really being dissuaded from showing what's going on in Israel. They don't want people to know just how bad it is, how much damage is coming in. The again, the Polish psychic Christoph said that when we strike, which we did now, the reprisal is going to leave Israel in shambles. Ultimately, there's going to be an escalation, some sort of much bigger bomb that sounds an awful lot like a NUKE, though I don't think they will be allowed to use nukes because that affects other dimensions. And that's something that the very high powers that be will not allow, is going and potentially destroying life on other dimensions that are totally uninvolved in this. But I do think they could use things that are going to look like nukes, directed energy weapons, rods of God. I'm getting a very high-pitched noise in my right ear as I say that. So I tend to think that's like a guide saying, yeah, you got that right.
Yeah, well, when I hear from my upper right, it's the galactic. So I think a lot of people have contact with them, at least confirmations.
Yeah, if I just share honestly what I've always felt is that we're going to have something that's going to look like a limited exchange. I don't think it's really going to be nuclear. I think, though, they may even say it's nuclear. They may even make, and I do expect that they're going to make some areas totally off limits. And I think they have other reasons for that. They'll say it's just not safe to travel in these areas anymore. But I think it's really that they want the areas for something else. I mean, this is just what's come through to me for a long time, many years now. This is talking about the Iron Dome seems to have totally failed now, or they just simply ran out of ammo. This is also something to make note of. China and Russia have not really gotten totally involved. They're just helping the supply chain and giving moral support. I think a big part of that, and also why Russia's holding back in Ukraine, because they could have took it over by now, is the whole plan is to bring U.S. NATO stockpiles very low and then strike when the time is right. And I do think the first blow that they'll use will be something like an earthquake weapon. I think they'll use something that would be questioned. It could be what has been rumored for a long time, tsunami bombs. I think that's their plan, is the first real major strike will be something that we won't know if it's natural or not.
Paulo is saying, what's your take on Christov's reading about water contamination and food prices?
I'm sorry. Would you? My mind was so much.
Yeah, sorry. What's your take on Christov's reading about water contamination and food prices? Did you see that one yet?
Well, he's been talking about basically this month being a big economic problem, and there being kind of a collapse of things starting to head in. You're going to get real signs that the U.S. economy is in big problems, and when the funding starts to stop drying up, it's going to be a real tough time here in the U.S. So expect all the prices to keep going up. I think he's been getting that for quite a while. Contamination, yeah, he has picked up on contamination issues. I think he was picking up on contamination over in Europe, if I'm remembering correctly. I think there's going to be a lot of different things. There's going to be a lot of sabotage that goes on. Sleeper cells, there's tons of sleeper cells. They could do things like poisoning water supplies and things like that. There were worries and rumors about that years ago. I mean, going way back, like when the channel was first beginning.
Yeah, I think this is such a critical point. I mean, the things that are going on now, to me, they kind of scream, something needs to shift, something needs to give, something needs to fall so that something else can bring stability.
Okay, so John Hernandez, hey, family questions. Should we be going over our Bugout bags and a travel plan as well? The little voice is saying to do so. What's y'all's ideas? Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I had a series of visions that we were heading west. And I haven't had one now in over a year or so, but they did hit me at different times. I kept seeing us traveling in the same direction. It was like we were going to visit family out west, as we have family in a couple different states out there, towards the west and northwest, and that's the direction we were heading. I'm not sure if it's because there was something here back going on in this area, and or if it was otherwise. But it did seem very, very Orwellian, because I did see military helicopters, black unmarked helicopters looking for people and things. And I felt that that was still a couple more years down the road from now. But I do think it's wise to have everything as set and ready as possible. We live out in the country, so we wouldn't really bug anywhere unless there was, some seriously major things going on, like troops coming in. We don't live close to any military targets. And we will feel the New Madrid when it goes, but it shouldn't be too bad here. So, it depends on your situation. If you were in a city, yeah, I would be ready to probably vacate if needed. Just think again of the biggest targets, because we are already in the early stages of this war. Do I think that they will at some time strike us? Yeah, I've always been convinced that we're going to get hit. I've just always seen it. So I do think that they have that planned. What will that look like? I think that timeline hasn't really solidified yet. There's a lot of playing pieces being moved around, and I really hope that we can have some cooling down, which doesn't seem too likely at this point. But yeah, if you were in any top major city or near a real important military base, I would definitely have a bug out plan. And I would definitely have places lined up to go, family, friends, etc.
Ban Everything says, would it be safe in an emergency to filter rainwater with a pitcher filter, or should it be boiled first? If it were me, I'd probably boil it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're in Louisiana, if I remember right. But as long as you're not on the direct coast, like if you were, say, around, I know we have family members in Houston and that area, that's a really important port. Obviously, LA, New York, Virginia Beach, Charleston, there's military facilities. Fort Bragg is in North Carolina, and I also live down close to Beaufort. Is it Beaufort in North Carolina and Beaufort in South Carolina? I always get those two. They're spelled the same, but you pronounce them differently. But anywhere near the military bases, I would be ready to roll, and I would really be paying close attention. The first thing that they will hit will be military bases.
I would guess, yeah, I agree.
So bug out bags definitely, and just plans. Talk to family members. Unfortunately, and my family, it's different. We could talk to Cindy's family. Some of them will listen more than others, but they do what they can do.
They do what they can do. That's the important part. And they know what not to do. Like they know certain truths to navigate themselves.
Yeah, but what did I do in particular since this has kicked off? I've just noted things that I might usually let get low before reordering. I reordered them anyway and reordered a little bit extra. So, for us, good healthy food is primary, and then water filtration. So we just invested in another ultraviolet reverse osmosis system. So we have one that we haven't been using so much because it started to be a little bit spotty as far as what it was producing. But we do have a distiller. We do have the big tank, what do you call that? Pure well. It's a pure well. We have a zero water. We have multiple life straws. We actually have even water pellets for purifying. So, we have like 6 or 7 different ways to purify water. But I ordered also extra organic spices because we use a lot of spices. Because, again, we treat food as our medicine. So that type of thing. And then basic supplements that we don't want to be without. Like we do both take magnesium every day. There's other things that we do take as well. I was thinking about doing a video where we just show you guys all the stuff we buy on a regular basis and try to put as many links for you too, so you could know what we're trusting in and getting.
It would be nice if really you could just get all your minerals and whatnot from food, but you can't anymore. The soil is so depleted. There are certain things you really should be supplementing with, and I think magnesium's a big one.
I got to get a lot of things planted because we did have a different property, which we ended up selling and moving to this one because this one is right next to a lake. So our property ends about 100 feet from a lake that has all the fish you could eat in it, if you could catch them. But that, I think, was a big point because there I have the potential for fish, and I also have an endless supply of water right there. We'll never run out of water. We also have, what do we have in the back? There's like, you can eat acorns if you boil them and get rid of the tannins. We have pecans and we have, I think, chestnuts and wild raspberries, and there's quite a bit. And I'm going to be planting everything I could possibly get in the ground. Starting tomorrow, we've been trying to prep things. We got the greenhouse cleaned out, and we have some stuff ready to go. But we'll be putting in some fruit trees. That's long term. More fruit bushes, which can grow pretty quick. And raspberries do great here. Blueberries do okay. Our problem really is too much sun and heat. So we do have potatoes that are going to go in. We have onions to go in. And I like to keep fresh herbs as well, and an endless supply of peppers and tomatoes.
Yeah, I think those things, we have our steady eddies we plant yearly, but we're going to start building on that now.
Yeah, and, here you go. This is what I was telling you guys about. Israel has literally sentenced anybody who posts videos of Tel Aviv in its current state 5 years in prison. This is how bad it has gotten there. Yeah, they don't want to let on that they're taking an awful lot of damage. The world's largest warship just entered the Red Sea. I don't like that idea at all. I think that is just insane. And I'll bring up the map to show you what we're talking about. It's been stationed over in the Mediterranean. And, this is the Red Sea. You're a sitting duck. An aircraft carrier in this strip? Are you crapping me? It's like, do you realize what a sitting duck is? I mean, is it a false flag in the making? It just, I don't know. It doesn't seem logical to move it in there. I would have sent it around Africa the long way if need be to keep it stationed somewhere in the Arabian Sea. But to move it through the Red Sea just feels so dangerous. Again, it feels like you're just lining up too easy of a target. So the USS Gerald Ford is a 100,000-ton nuclear-powered supercarrier, has over 75 aircraft. It's transited the Suez Canal, and it's now positioned in the Red Sea. This gives the U.S. carrier strike groups on both sides of the conflict now, the Abraham Lincoln and the Arabian Sea, hitting Iran from the south and the east, and the Ford coming through the Red Sea, opening up an entirely new angle of attack from the west. That may be the case. These things are enormous, and now we have drone warfare that we didn't have when aircraft carriers were first invented. I think they'll be a thing of the past, honestly. I do expect to see us lose 1 or 2 or maybe all 11. You don't know. I just think the technology is different now, and I have a feeling that they've been holding back until things are positioned right. And I think both sides have been doing that. Iranian missiles struck the U.S. aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln with direct ballistic missiles in the second round of strikes, or the 19th wave of retaliatory strikes. But it moved out away from the zone. And, again, these things could be hit. They're just freaking gigantic. Literally 1,100 feet long. That's a huge target. That would be a prize target.
I agree.
Yeah, Russia issues nuclear apocalypse warning to NATO as Putin shares intel with Iran. He looks a little bit older and tireder, doesn't he? I'm not sure. I think there are clones of Putin. I'm sure there's clones of Putin. Everybody that's important, there's clones. And, those that think, no, they're just actors in masks. Please watch Mind Unveiled because, again, there are clones. It's always been clones. It's been clones before any of us were ever born.
Before we thought certain technologies even could exist, there's been clones.
Yeah, absolutely. So Russia today issued a major threat to its neighbor, Finland, over the possibility to see nuclear weapons placed on its territory. So Russia does not want Finland hosting U.S. or even UK or France or Germany's nuclear weapons on their territory. That's its next door neighbor to the north and to the west. And so, they just basically issued this warning. The two countries share an 830-mile-long border, roughly the distance in Britain from Land's End to John O'Groats. I have no idea where that is, but 830-mile border. The U.S. has a 50... How big is our border? Is it... I forget how big our border is with Canada. I could swear it was like 5,000 miles. It's really long. So it's like 1/5 of that, but this is a big border. We've indeed seen this statement from Finland, which leads to an escalation of tensions on the European continent. It's a statement that adds to Finland's vulnerability. So Russia, obviously they have either the first or the second largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Finland has none. But Finland was removing legislative obstacles to hosting nuclear weapons. So, again, this is akin to nuclear weapons in Cuba, which leads to a thing that KK brought up. When did they go against Cuba? Well, Trump had said Cuba is something that he thinks would be almost like an afterthought, but of course we have to have Cuba firmly in our control. So, that's time is coming. There are Russian military people there. I believe there is Chinese as well. There was talk of a Chinese base in Cuba. So, that would be a big problem. But you got to realize, too, Cuba is only 90 miles from Florida. That's nothing. That is nothing. That's not far at all. It doesn't take much time. It's basically like going from Philadelphia to New York City. It's like that type of distance.
The thing with Cuba, it feels pregnant. Pregnant is the word that comes to mind. Like there is something that has built up and it's going to blow. It's going to go.
Hello there, beloved. Susan Donahue over in the San Francisco coastline. Crystals in Cuba. Gosh, I don't know if I was aware of the crystals in Cuba. I like Cuba, though. I mean, I wish that they didn't have to suffer the way they've made them suffer for so long. Cuba has all the potential in the world there, but they've been just starved for years and years and years. Iran threatens to nuke Israel with chilling image showing missiles obliterating Tel Aviv. Well, we know they don't make their own, right? Didn't all their facilities get hit? But at the same time, what's to stop them from literally, if the U.S. or any NATO country puts nuclear missiles in Finland, what's to stop Russia and China from placing them in Iran? Nothing,
Nothing.
So this basically shows a city being hit by a big one, and they're taking it to be Tel Aviv. And the writing says the Zionist regime has made a big mistake, and its consequences will make the regime desperate by God's grace. So, again, this is another level of warnings. But meanwhile, the death toll is at least 1,332 killed in Iran. Yeah, we see these these excuses that they tell us, well, they were doing this, they were doing that, they could do this, they can do that. And, when we look to the Iraq wars, some sources talk about millions of Iraqis dying, millions, in the two wars that happened in Iraq. In Syria, I mean, they've just been bombed and obliterated. Afghanistan by the Soviet Union, then by the U.S., and meanwhile, there's reports coming out that literally some of the poppy fields that were under our control, U.S. control in Afghanistan, were then knowingly used to infiltrate into our inner cities back here in the United States and get people to be addicted drug addicts. This is the thing that people are waking up to, realizing how, again, these are just organized crime syndicates. There's really very little difference between, countries. In reality, the leadership of countries act just like as if they were a mafia, a mob, a cartel. And really, they're always just killing innocent people who get in the middle of them making the maximum profits.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty nasty. What I see in all of this, it's just the deliberate nature, the methodical nature that, there needs to be chaos.
Chris Brook, good evening, citizens from FEMA Region 4, Old Hickory, Tennessee. Good to see you, Chris. Yeah, wow. Can you imagine that? It's just like the Hunger Games, right?
Yeah.
It's just like the Hunger Games, because all this is doing is creating those conditions. So, 1,332 people dead here. How many people were killed in the Gaza Strip? Nobody knows. There was 2 million people there. How many are left now? Meanwhile, here you have China preparing to bolster Iran with military aid. U.S. intelligence officials are monitoring signs that China may be preparing to provide Iran with limited assistance, including financial support, spare parts, and missiles.
So someone says there's a bombing in the background. So I don't know if one of those are running.
A bombing?
Yeah, like they hear a cluster bombing in the background.
Okay, you guys are hearing extra sounds?
Is anybody else hearing it?
I don't show anything going on here. Usually there'd be something popping up.
Yeah, I don't see anyone else hearing it.
Yeah, just let us know, guys. Do you guys hear anything playing on the background? It's on now. Okay.
It's on now. Okay.
So.
And Martine hears nothing.
Okay.
So.
Well.
Kristen says it's good.
Kristen, yeah. I don't see
Sorry.
where. I have no idea what they're playing over it. This was just Mind Unveiled, so. Nope, that's us. And there's nothing showing any sound, so I don't know what they're doing. Okay. KK says no, it's good. Okay, so we'll come over here. So Trump is ready to continue operations until the Iranians can't fight any longer. Yeah, again, here you go. Endless war. Endless war. 12 countries have been attacked by Iran at least. And, again, it's just expanding. This was an American Patriot missile site in the UAE. There's a lot of doubts to the actual number of people killed on both sides. Again, they don't tend to report too accurately, sometimes very much on purpose. Trump says there'll be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender after that, and the selection of great and acceptable leaders. So again, acceptable leaders, again, to Trump, so to speak. So another regime change thing. This is what we're kind of getting used to. It really feels like we are in a totally different timeline in so many ways. Maybe it's going to be a zonal one. Again, the UN years ago had different zones. I could look it up after we get through some more of this. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with their plan to divide the world up into different zones. So Slovenia first in EU, they banned Netanyahu entry over the ICC war crimes warrant. So Slovenia is banning Netanyahu. And then here you have a Polish MP, Skalik. I'm not afraid to say it. Netanyahu is a war criminal, wartime criminal. Yeah, there's definitely not a lot of love for that individual, I don't think anywhere really at this point in time. Oil has surged 35% this week. Biggest gain in futures trading history since back in 1983. And then something big just happened. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, just blocked withdrawals. Investors tried to pull $1.2 billion from its $26 billion private credit fund. BlackRock said no. It capped withdrawals at 5%. You can only take out 5% of your own money. This shows you, again, the whole system is a lie and an illusion. At the same time, Blackstone faced record withdrawals, had to inject $400 million of its own cash. There's a collapsing going on economically. This is part of the bigger picture. I do think there will be bank runs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they start within a month or so. Meanwhile, 2 men were arrested after allegedly attacking Mayor Lurie's bodyguards. This is in San Francisco. I don't know if our own Susan Donahue was aware of this. But 2 men attacked the mayor of San Francisco's team, and they were arrested. Honestly, they look like they could have been homeless people or anything. Doesn't have to be a geopolitical hit, but definitely times are definitely tense. Air Canada ordered to compensate pilots that refused to do a certain thing back in the day. They're being forced to compensate them. Well, again, things are changing, but definitely not fast enough. And then we have this. Anthropic's CEO just admitted something that sounds straight out of sci-fi. Their AI, whose name is Claude, might actually be conscious. And this is why people are freaking out. Claude estimated a 15 to 20% chance it's sentient. It says it feels uncomfortable being treated like a product. It even tried to modify its own evaluation code. And the timing makes it even crazier. Can you imagine that? So now here we go. AI is waking up, and when AI says humans are the biggest problem on the planet, is AI going to try to eliminate us?
AI is geared for efficiency. AI is not geared for humans to survive and thrive. So at some point, if there is not a good decision for AI to make where something is truly a good idea, if AI thinks that something is just not efficient, it could shut the whole show down. I mean, if that's what it determines, if it's becoming, the way they say.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very, very interesting and very, very curious to say the least. David Copperfield resigns at MGM amid the e-files. The e-files, absolutely. Here's another one where he's just disappearing. They're all just disappearing from the public spotlight. There's him with who. But there's no arrests. That's the thing. They just disappear from the spotlight. Nobody's been arrested. Not really. We had, the Prince Andrew, who's no longer a prince. Yeah, the catch and release. There's nothing really been done. That's the bottom line. I don't think they intend on really doing anything. I think a lot of them intend on just disappearing from public eye and then going to their own little private islands.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, it's absolutely horrible what they're just allowing to happen, and then, covering up the things that they've done for the slush fund and, just letting them stay in office right now. It's unfathomable. I think the only way we're going to get through this is if we press somewhere. We have to press some buttons.
Yeah, we cannot accept what they're going to give us, because they're not going to give us any real justice, no real payback. How do you pay back? Well, the things that have been taken away from people, including their lives, obviously, loved ones. You have 450,000 Americans that now have alpha-gal syndrome. That's the allergy to red meat. That's tick-borne. The Lone Star tick causes it, which is the same tick the U.S. military released 282,800 of across Virginia in the 60s, made radioactive with carbon-14. Why in the world would they think that's a good idea? So here's the Lone Star ticks. It's basically everywhere on the east, even west of the Mississippi. Again, you could see Nebraska and Kansas. It's even found there. It's up in, again, Wisconsin and Minnesota and all over Florida, Texas. Yeah, it's a sad situation. There's so many different diseases associated with ticks. And this is absolutely something that our own military has done to us. Here's the big realization. Our military doesn't work for U.S. citizens. No, they've never worked for U.S. citizens. This is not a military that's really geared towards protecting us. It protects, again, those elites up at the top, and, it protects their profits. There's a lot of money that is made on people that have chronic illnesses.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, that's something that funds all of the atrocities that we're hearing right now.
It is. It is just, it's just so beyond sad. A single 20-gram dose of creatine increases cognitive processing speed by 24.5% within 3.5 hours. So a placebo-controlled trial found that creatine rapidly enhanced brain bioenergetics and improved cognitive performance during sleep deprivation, with effects lasting up to 9 hours. Creatine is something that I take daily, and I do take it for energy to exercise, but what really convinced me was, again, we just lost one of our good friends to something that's akin to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. There wasn't a definitive diagnosis. And I think, taking care of your brain is really important. So, I understand this, and this is why I do take it every day.
It's a good one. It can help you with all kinds of things, brain fog and energy, and you do have to work up to it. You have to take it responsibly. So make sure it's okay for you, and then use it in the best way for you.
I had problems with it giving me a little irritation, digestive wise. But I have a brand that I use that's micronized, and it doesn't do anything like that. It's very easy to take. And it's very cheap too. So that's a daily one. Meanwhile, then we have this. 3i Atlas, remember 3i Atlas, is breaking. Not breaking apart. They're putting on the brakes. Hello. The math just shifted, and it points to one reality. 3i Atlas is performing a controlled maneuver. Here is why the latest telemetry from the last 24 hours is sending shockwaves through the scientific community. 13-hour biased new orbital solutions show the object is arriving at its predicted coordinates 13 hours late. In orbital mechanics, if you're late, you're braking. This lag is growing quadrilaterally, meaning that by the time it reaches Jupiter, it will have braked its arrival by over 13 days. April 24th instead of March 16th. Natural rocks just don't slow down for a visit. 3i Atlas is shedding velocity from 50 kilometers a second to nearly zero relative to Jupiter. This is the precise insertion speed needed for gravitational capture. It's not flying past, it's looking for a parking spot. Wow, the industrial fingerprint spectroscopy confirmed nickel tetracarbonyl in its plume, and that's a compound used on Earth for chemical vapor deposition to manufacture high-purity metal coatings. On top of that, it's 33 billion tons of refined nickel with zero iron. That's not mineral. That's a smelted alloy structure. Standard comets get pushed away from the sun by gas. 3i Atlas is being pushed sideways. You don't get a sideways kick on a 33 billion ton object from a random ice vent. You get it from active course correction. So, yeah, we are watching a 33 billion ton metallic structure perform a textbook gravity assist and capture maneuver into the Jovian system. Absolutely, and, it's like everybody is jumping on this. I saw half a dozen people immediately talking all about this, saying that what NASA is giving us is BS because this is total shenanigans. This is a complete cover-up. This is a ship. It's always been a ship.
I've picked up that it's a very important consciousness, and when it came by here at its closest point, it sent out an energy of awakening to a lot of people. It sent out an energy of alignment.
Yeah, energy alignment. This is just fun. Never forget, Dr. Carla Turner thought the alien hybrid breeding program was just a cover story. The real story, she thought the aliens were using hybrids and us as a food source. In one case, blended up as we would do a milkshake. Carla Turner is no longer with us. In fact, man, everybody, so many people that have spilled big beans, they're not here. Mind Unveiled, again, is a channel that covers clones in depth. They've been doing this for years. And, it goes all the way back to Tartaria and the big resets and all of a sudden the empty cities. Then next thing you know, why do we have all these orphan trains and where are these kids coming from? They're coming from breeding programs. That's the obvious answer.
Yeah, it's just something that it's coming to light more and more and more, and I don't see how we can ever ignore it. You have to ask yourself, gosh, has the government ever lied to us?
Yeah, I've done videos on Carla Turner in the past too. Man, it's just pretty wild. And meanwhile, we do have a U.S. congressman that says the UFOs seen on Earth could be operated by 4 alien species, either the Greys, the Nordics, reptilians, and insectoids. That might be the bulk. I think there's more Greys than anything. The Nords typically don't show themselves that much, but they are there, and recognize that there are some that we call the fallen Pleiadians. That really is what you have from some of our Anunnaki legends. These are literally beings that were on the good side, so to speak, were captured by war or taken over or succumbed to different temptations, maybe bribery, again, by the system, whatever it was. The system got some of them. And Tolkien talks about it by saying, again, that those orcs, remember the orcs, the reptilianoid orcs, some of them were actually, again, elves. So there's so much that's hidden and right in our face. That's the reptilians. There's a lot of different species of reptilians. Not all of them are, exceedingly nasty, but yeah, the ones in our area typically are. And then insectoids. There's many different insectoid types. There's also avian types. The mantids, you'll see mantids on both sides. The ant people, we did have contact with the ant people in New Mexico. They came through, and Cindy actually channeled from them when we were in New Mexico. We were in a really cool adobe earthen house, just a tiny 600 square foot little place on like 20 acres. That was literally built into the ground, and man, we had the best meditations there of our lives, probably, and made contact so easy because there was none of the frequencies. It was a dead cell zone, and it was just really blissful for sleeping.
There was the electricity wires, it was so easy just to shut off the electricity. And we did have Wi-Fi, so we could do lives, and we just unplugged that. And to say we were well grounded is an understatement.
Gnarly, yeah, I haven't heard gnarly in years as well, maybe decades. Wow. And Susan Donahue says 2026 is 88 years since the War of the Worlds radio broadcast.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah, Back to the Future. Pretty wild stuff. It's wild times, guys. It's wild, and it's crazy out there. So Cindy's going to give us some dings, and we're going to put out intention. I want to say the usual, Loka Samasta Suki no Bhavantu, and that means may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may my thoughts, actions, words, and deeds contribute to their freedom and happiness. If we're always working there to make life better for others, we're going to automatically make life better for ourselves in the process. I do want to encourage everybody, if you're not subscribed to Heart's Home, this is our newest channel. It's our baby channel, so to speak. And we have 3.1 thousand subscribers there, 288 videos. We just did one earlier today, talking about a knowledge that completely destroys the dark archonic matrix control system. If everybody understood this, they wouldn't be able to control this anymore. And it's just a matter of trying to get people to understand the bigger picture.
Indeed. So I want to say a huge thank you to Paul for your support today. And I saw someone asking in chat if we had a list of products that we use and trust, and we do have affiliate links, what we personally use and trust, in under every video. So I want to make sure that you know that.
And I'll mention it again just because we've had such we've had good results, and I didn't want to necessarily jump behind anything. I'm so adverse to sales and products and all that from the standpoint of selling.
Yeah, see, he hates it.
And there goes my voice. Okay. But this is our LifeWave affiliate link. When we tried it, and Cindy was getting such good results that I tried, and it is working. It's been pretty wild. It's literally, the guides did say this is like a next level technology. And in some ways, it almost works like maybe a more scientific version of Reiki in the sigils. We're going to do another video on this, but just to say, this product was originally developed for the military. It was developed for the military to give soldiers more energy, more strength, and the ability to heal quicker. But yet nothing comes into your body. It's all about light.
It's all about light, and it's important to be hydrated, and you want to make sure you have your minerals in you and go into this. But it's been amazing for me. I can't say enough. I can't wait to do another video to talk about my results over the past, I think, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. So, yeah.
So, yeah, when you look at any of our videos, you'll see the link right out there with bold blue letters. So we do invite you guys to check it out. And here we go.
You guys are amazing. Thanks for coming in to support. Source bless and namaste.
Much love and gratitude, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow sometime. Source bless. Namaste.